The first thing I teach everybody is how to assess their own horse. I just see the need for services. They haven't got vets. There's no vets that go out to them. They have to do everything. I often hear stories when I'm teaching or my workshops. People will say, well, we take the horse to the vet in the float, and transporting a sick or injured horse these days, I have a very different approach.
At Horse Chats today, we want to welcome back Amanda Edwards. Amanda's been on before and chatted to us about wound care and equine welfare. And just on number 390, if you do want to go back and have a look. And as you know, if you're a regular listener, horse welfare and safety are of utmost importance to International Horse College, which is why we've got that in our values statement. So within the wide variety of courses with International Horse College, they make sure that everything is within the horse welfare and safety around horses requirements, and only utilise those methods. So if you want to have a look at some more information, or you want some more information about the safe courses and horse welfare, have a look at internationalhorsecollege.com and have a look at the wide variety of courses there. Internationalhorsecollege.com is a registered training organisation 31352. Now, as I said, we're inviting back Amanda Edwards, who's also speaking at Equitana. We've had a few Equitana guests on lately, or Equitana educators. So Amanda's the Managing Director of Equine Care Clinic, where she looks after sick and injured animals or injured horses for horse owners. She's also got an offshoot of this called Equine E-Care, providing virtual horse wound care and a signature first aid horse program. Welcome back, Amanda. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again, Glenys. It's great to be here.
Look, we love people coming on that are experts in their field, and we lean towards safety around horses and better horse welfare. And if we can help contribute towards that, we're very happy to have you back anytime.
I think that we're very aligned in that philosophy. So I always feel like this is a good match for what we do at Equine Care Clinic and Equine E-Care as well. So terrific to be here.
Amanda, it's been a little while since you were on, and I like to talk to people about their favourite quote, which can change. But at the moment, what are you thinking of? What's your favourite quote? Something inspirational or something you tell your clients?
Well, I don't know that it's a quote, but I have been thinking and reflecting of late that I love learning, and I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always doing some kind of study. And I think that money spent on education or personal growth is never wasted. I've had that said to me, and I don't know if it's a quote by someone, but I've heard it quite a bit. And I think that really resonates with where I'm at the moment, that even though I'm advancing in my years, I still love learning new things and just developing. I think that's really, having that growth mindset is really important as well, I think.
I think if people go into horses with a growth mindset, they're always going to continue to learn. So it doesn't matter how old you are. If you've just got that growth mindset, you're going to be the type of person who someone will tell you something different to your core beliefs or your current beliefs. And instead of saying, no, that's wrong, you're incorrect, you sort of say, well, tell me a bit more. You know? So you want to know more before you make up your decision which way you're going to go. But it doesn't mean that the other person's wrong. It just means that this aligns with your way of training or what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, and I also think that there's so much information now, it's even more important to be educated and to have an educated approach to that, because what I see with, people I work with and people, my students and participants and so forth, is that they're seeking valued education and valuable information instead of this. There's so much out there. How do you know what's true and what's real? That's our big challenge, I think, of these times.
Amanda, the path that you've gone down with horses is a bit different. It's a bit different it's a specialist. It really is a specialist path.
Yeah.
But I want you to take me back. Now, I know this story about your pony Flash and about, you were 13 at the time, I think. Is that right?
Yes, I was about 13, and the new horse that I got kicked my horse that I was coming off, Flash, who was our family pony, and he was amazing. I did B grade pony club, which is, pretty good on a little 13 two-hand pony. And he got colic, and really serious colic, and he had to have surgery. So we all emptied our piggy banks and got that horse his surgery. But my mum hated medical things. And so as a 13-year-old, the vet would always just be giving me the skills and teaching me what to do. And it was up to me to manage anything gory. I loved, and mum and my sister hated it. And so it always fell to me to be doing those things. And I think that's kind of put me in that frame where I ended up going on to nursing and critical care nursing, and I still nurse and midwife, and I actually work for the Flying Doctors as a FIFO retrieval nurse as well. So I've got this kind of people and horses running in parallel to each other, which I find fascinating because it does mean that I can bring a lot of the science and evidence from things that we know about wound care in people into the horse world. Even though there's differences, there's some real advances that we can use to make things move along quicker.
So I want to take you back to a broken nose, which I'm sure you probably would prefer to forget about. And the fact that your pony left hoof prints on the backside of your neighbour. Okay, so, and, I can imagine the pony's colicking and panicking and, not thinking correctly. If you took yourself back now, and I'm sure you've had many other horses that you've been in a similar situation, do you think that those injuries, knowing that the horse is colicking and knowing that, he's going to not be thinking clearly and in a bit of a panic, do you think that what you know now about horse safety and handling horses when they're under stress, that you could have prevented both those injuries?
Absolutely. Back in the day, it was keep the horse on the ground if they're rolling, and he was really, really going to town. And so we were all sitting on this horse, and I got thrown face first into the dirt and broke my nose. And then the vet had told us this too, I think, at the time. And so then he said, oh, you'll need to, I don't know, but somehow two of the neighbours and my dad all got in the back of the float. Can you imagine it? Driving at 1,000 miles an hour. My mum's in the car and my dad just said, just drive. And so they're trying to hold the horse down in the back of the float with mum driving like a bat out of hell down to Werribee, where he was going to get his operation. And I think now and think, God, all the things you just do not do around horses, and the lack of concern about safety that any of us had back then. It's a long time since I've been 13, but, and the poor neighbour had the bruised butt, which he just loved to drop his pants and show everybody the 2 hoof prints on his butt for the next week. And mum ended up, finally, they got her attention because they were all hanging off the sides and up the thing, and the horse was upside down in the back of the float. And anyway, they finally got her attention. The 2 neighbours got out and Dad drove the rest of the way, and they just went. And then when they got there, the horse was under the chest bar. He'd rolled and got back up. And then they just waited until he rolled and got out. And, I often hear stories when I'm teaching or my workshops, people will say, well, we take the horse to the vet in the float. And transporting a sick or injured horse these days, I have a very different approach, and, working with vets to make sure that they're sedated or that they're safe and that people are safe. So now part of what I teach is that the horse today as your very quiet, safe horse may not be the same horse under stress and when he's sick or unwell or something's wrong. They often can behave in a very different way and do unexpected things. And I think every farrier I know has heard that saying that, every farrier and every vet, oh, he never does that when he's,
Yep.
So I think if I get across that to people, if nothing else, that, you've got to put your safety first, because if you don't, you will become the priority and your horse will miss out. And so it's very, very important. Yes, I do things very differently today than we did 30 or 40 years ago. So,
Now, you went on after you left school to become a critical care nurse, is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me what skills you've been able to bring across from being a critical care nurse with a background in horses, but just thinking about the nursing now. What skills there have you been able to bring across to your current position, or, working with horses and people now for the equine wound care? It's more than equine wound care, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I do horse first aid, equine wound care. As I say, I look after horses that are sick or injured. I've done that for the last 13 years. So I've looked after a lot of different types of horsing, so post-operative care, very unwell, pedal bone penetration, laminitic horses, horses with complex medical needs, because if it's simple, people will manage at home, but if it's complex, they're struggling to get the care given. And that's where we've got lots of tips and tricks and hacks that we can do. It's one thing for a vet to come and sedate a horse and give treatment. It's another thing to do that day in, day out without the horse getting sick of it and getting pretty fed up and developing a whole range of behaviours and phobias about the treatment. So we've got a range of strategies for that. So I think the transferable skills assessment. So as a critical care nurse, you are always doing assessment, so top to toe. And so those assessment skills are the same when you're looking at your horse. And so what we focus on is assessing that horse, developing treatment or management plans, and then monitoring the horse as well. So knowing recognizing when things deviate from normal, you have to have a really good understanding of what normal physiology is, what's going on. All of those physiological and pathophysiological processes are similar. People are mammals and horses are mammals. And so there's some similarities around that. Some of the treatment programs, like giving injections, bandaging, wound care dressings, understanding science and understanding the difference between pseudoscience and science, and being able to critically analyse information that's out there. So, a lot of horse people will say, oh, well, the studies say this, but actually studies in horses deal with small numbers of horses. There's very few studies with over 1,000 horse participants in them, and often they're more subjective and qualitative studies as opposed to blind controlled studies of anything. So what we've got to do is, so the evidence in our horse research is not overly strong. We have to look at the trends of what that information means and then make some kind of adjustment to it. So I think that's transferable. And I think the other thing is about dealing with people. Horses come with people. And I think the special skill that I bring to the way that I work and the way that I talk to people and the way that I teach is all about translating that very scientific stuff into information that horse owners themselves can do at a really practical level. So it's evidence-based, but it's in language and actions that people can take and feel confident that they can do. I think a lot of times I spend half my life translating for doctors to patients about what they're saying to them, because they're talking at a level it's a different language. They're talking in doctor language. Vets often talk in vet language. So for me, I feel like a bit of an interpreter to be able to take those complex things and break them down into simple, practical stuff. My whole thing is keep it simple, keep it really practical, and make it doable for people. And that's kind of the feedback I get from everyone too, is that what I do makes sense and it's doable.
While you're working with the people, and I'll get to that in a minute, but working with vets as well. And I'm sure you see a wide variety of vets. I know I have. I've seen some very, very good horsemen that have been vets. And yet there's been other vets that you give them a lesson on how to lead a quiet horse, because they come in and they might have a lot of experience with cats and dogs, and then you call them out to do something with a horse, but they're not horse people, but they've still got the qualification. So
I think that's really,
with vets, is there any particular one or a group or, ones that you'd like to say, well, this vet I really learned a lot from, or this vet or group of vets or practice, or Anything in particular that stands out?
Yeah, I'll have to say I'm going to give a plug out to Rowan Luxmore, who's at Gisborne Veterinary Clinic. Rowan was a young vet when I first met him. He's an older vet now, but he's also a 3-star eventer down in Victoria and just a hell of a nice guy. And he taught me a lot, lots of little hints and tips. He was very supportive. Their clinic was very supportive of me when I first started up, and it was encouragement for one of their vets to even start the equine care clinic because they were like, we just need somewhere that's a step down facility. Their facility was not that big. So, but Rowan in particular, he's a great horse person. He knows horses. He's got his own horses. He knows what it's like. That guy has come out on Christmas Eve, to my place to look after, the horse that's on the cover of my book actually came out on Christmas Eve to see that horse when he'd colicked after his surgery. So a level of commitment to the equine industry that, it's getting harder and harder to find these days. And I have all the greatest admiration for our equine vets. But as you say, there's not that many vets at all that come out of it that are trained each year. So each year we might see 200 vets come out, but 1 or 2 of those are going to be equine vets. The rest of them are not going to be equine vets, and that is becoming a smaller and smaller number every year. So it's really, really important that horse owners educate themselves and get themselves skilled up on how to actually take good care of their horses and let go of some of those really old practices that actually are not working for horses at all. So, yeah, Rowan would be my big plug. Great guy.
We'll have to, and as you know, Amanda, every episode's a different webpage. So go to horsechats.com, search for Amanda or search for Edwards, and you'll find Amanda's previous episode. But would you be able to send us a link, please, to Rowan? Because I'm sure people would like to have his contact details as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, people, okay, think about all the aftercare you've done and all the education that you've had to have done for people looking after their own horses after they leave you, or even before they give it to you. They might be tossing up, can I do this myself? Do I need Amanda? Because I'm sure you don't volunteer your services and there's always a bit of a cost there. But if there's one lesson that you'd like to teach to people, one thing that you think about, or an important lesson that you think that they need to learn, what would that be?
I think it's where you can take shortcuts and where you shouldn't take shortcuts. So I see a lot of people, and I think the first horse I ever had in the clinic was a little mare who had a nasty wound on her back leg. She came to me from another property. They told me that the horse had been x-rayed and that there was no damage to the joint. It was a disgusting wound. It was probably one of the worst ones, it still ranks up as one of the worst ones I've ever seen. We healed the wound in about 12 weeks, which was pretty good. And we'd had a vet to come and see her at the beginning. But I never saw the x-ray and I never was able to get the x-ray. And I don't think the x-ray ever existed. So finally we healed the wound and then it split open again and we got her re-x-ray. I said to the owner, I think we should get, we'd sort of said the vet had suggested an x-ray and she'd like, oh no, I can't, the cost. But in the meantime, we've spent 3 months healing this wound, which is dressings and costs and extra feed and all the things, my care, all that stuff. So she'd spent quite a lot of money on this healing. And then we x-rayed it and its joint was stuffed. So it had to be euthanized. So I would say that, and sometimes like vets understand that people have budgets, and so they won't often push when they probably should. They won't push people because then people are saying that, oh, they cost a fortune, blah, 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 blah. But you do those diagnostics. It's like doing a lameness check and not doing the x-rays but not doing the regional blocks. You're wasting your money if you don't do it properly. So the thing that I would really stress is know when it's appropriate to take shortcuts. So the appropriate shortcut for me would be, an example would be in wound care, I use sterile dressings and so forth up close to the wound, like against the wound, but then the padding that you've got to have around the leg, say it's a leg, you've got to have a lot of padding and so forth. I'll use reusable items for that, and we'll wash them and what have you. And that'll save over the course of a 12-week dressing or 16 weeks, that'll save us, up to $1,000 in dressings. And then you might be spending extra on the dressing, but it's actually doing something, because ointments and so forth, they don't heal. They don't actively heal the wound. They just prevent things, preventing infection or trying to prevent proud flesh, which is a marketing ploy in itself. But those are places you can take some shortcuts, but it's knowing the difference, what's going to really be important and what's not. And that's where I think you need to have that discernment, isn't it, really?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, because you probably handled a lot of injuries, a lot of people, a lot of everything else. Your proudest moment. What do you think? And, we did have a chat a couple of years ago. Maybe it's one a bit more recently. What you've been doing recently, what your proudest moment is, where you think that your job and your healing has been really, really benefited the person, the horse, or a combination of both?
I think most recently, this year, I started doing virtual wound consulting, because a lot of vets are not that comfortable. They don't have many tools in their toolkit for wound management. They've got a sort of stock trade, whereas I have a lot of different approaches, and I'll make up these, so we do a full management plan, and then each week we review the wound and look at where we're going. So I've had a few of these and some absolute huge wounds. And the proudest moment is when they send me that final photo that says, and we say, right, it's good to go now. The horse can go back out in the paddock. The horse is ready to ride. And we've healed some really big wounds all over the country. And that's what I'm proud of. I can do this from anywhere. And I had a girl over in Gippsland, never seen her. She'd just call me on the phone, send me through a photo. We had a couple of videos, she'd have me on FaceTime, and we'd just be like, okay, try this, try that. And the wounds are healing super fast. So things that would normally take 4, 5 or 6 months, they're healing in 2 or 3 months' time, because we're doing them properly. And that is exciting. It's really exciting. So very proud of that.
Don't you love technology when it works?
And I just think, I'm out there doing with the flying doctors. We go out and pick people up, and I'm almost amazed at, we're basically a travelling intensive care unit, and we rock into a little town and we'll resuscitate someone out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm amazed at these people and the strength and resilience they've got. But they've also got horses and animals. And so a lot of these people, I just see the need for services. They haven't got vets. There's no vets that go out to them. They have to do everything. And so I started doing this wound consultancy, and it's just lovely to see horses that would otherwise be put down and just shot get back into work and be the pets and the family members that they are. It's a real, that's a huge step forward in technology. Like telehealth for horses.
Yeah, absolutely. So just thinking about the horses that you have done well with, anything you'd like to tell yourself? Because your career journey, you had to do the nursing and the being in critical care to give you the knowledge and experience that you've got now. But going back to your 13-year-old self, is there anything that you would have done different to get into the position? Sometimes people say, oh, I could have been here 10 years ago if only I'd have realised this, if only I'd have been more confident, if only I'd have had these connections or had this lesson. Is there anything, looking back to your 13-year-old self, that you would have said, oh, I need to go a little bit of a different path here?
I think I was a bit of a late starter, so I think that I would have just knuckled down and got on with it a bit earlier. I don't have any regrets about how I've studied or taken my career. It's been kind of nice. Like, I might do a human nursing or science course, and then I'll do a horse one, so I've got lots of it. I mean, the horse piece has been a bit difficult for me because I already had this base knowledge. I didn't need to go. So I've kind of picked and chosen modules out of programs that are appropriate for the work that I do. And I would have liked that to be a bit easier. So I've probably gone down the equine science like those are the subjects that I've picked, the science ones, not so much like vet nursing or anything like that, because that was sort of, I already had enough of that and I didn't want the small animals. I just wanted the horses. So what would be really nice is if, you could just choose your specialty straight on. In medicine, you can basically move yourself through. You can kind of specialize early. And I think that it would be great for people if they didn't have to go, if they knew they were going to be an equine vet, they could just go off and do that. And that there was equine science subjects that you could do as, standalone subjects would be really good.
And apart from that, thinking, specific courses, and because we are embracing technology, is there a YouTube channel you watch or a podcast that you particularly listen to or anything like that? I mean, we can talk about books, but, what do you do unofficially, unofficial study or unofficial learning that you're still learning from others, but have you got somewhere there that you'd recommend, or just let us know a bit more information? Because, what you might think is very beneficial, people might have a look and go, oh, this is way over my head. But,
Yeah.
just out of interest, is there anything that you'd like for yourself, but maybe you might want to recommend something else?
Now, what is it? The Vet Academy? I'll have to look into it, but there is a subscription that I have been on a couple of times, on and off, which is basically videos and talks by vets and other equine health professionals, and it's all in the equestrian field, and that's Australian based, and I find that very useful. What else in terms of podcasts? I listen to Horse Chats. I listen to The Horse. Some of their webinars are available as well. That's more American based though. And I think this is the other thing that I like to try and find good Australian. We actually have a really high standard of horse care. And there's some things like the States and the UK have their very big vet hospitals. And so there's some good information that comes out of those and some of the Canadian ones as well. So University of Guelph, I've done quite a few of their grad dip modules. So, there's bits and pieces out there that you can gain. I think I've done a module with you, the international, early on in the early piece. So, yeah, I kind of just different places. But, yeah, some YouTube stuff is okay, but again, it can be a bit variable. So I like it to come with some kind of credential behind it.
That's why we need recommendations from people like you, Amanda. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now, just going back to one of those links, you said you just couldn't quite find it. Would you be able to send us the link, and then that
I
way?
will. Yes.
Yeah. Then that way we've got it, and if people are interested, they can again go to your chat on Horse Chats.
Yeah, perfect.
Horsechats.com. Search for Amanda, search for Edwards, and you'll just scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you'll find that link. So is there anything, Amanda, that we should have covered within our chat and haven't?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think we've had a nice little meander through the equine health industry a little bit and a little bit about how we get there. But it's always very rewarding to see, I love horses, and to see them get better and their owners just be very happy with their outcomes. It's really good. And to see people learning and getting something, when someone takes away stuff that you've put together for them and is able to apply it, that's the real test of your teaching, I think.
Yeah. Now, Mandy, you're going to be at Equitana. Can you just remind me the days and what you're going to speak on those days?
So on the Friday, I'm on at 4:45. Can't remember, maybe the classroom, and I'll be teaching horse first aid. So I'll be doing a session on horse first aid, and that'll cover some emergency things: what's normal, what's not, when to call the vet, what can wait. Some of the hints and tips about how to actually get your horse to take notice of you in that situation and keep yourself safe. And then on the Sunday, I think at 11:45, I'll be in the educator, probably the rubber surface one. I need a horse for that one. So it'll be horse wound wisdom. So we'll be looking at horse wounds and getting them to heal fast. So the faster you can heal a wound, the better your outcomes are going to be and the less problems you'll have. So my whole thing is get it healed fast as you can and keep it moving in the right direction. So we'll be giving some good tips on those as well, and also how to bandage your horse so it stays on instead of dragging around the paddock, which is a thing that people really struggle with, and doing it so you don't cause any problems too. Yeah.
Now, do you have a challenge or a lesson or something for our listeners? You know, we try to think about education, but people that have been listening to you and thought this is really interesting, but something they can do with their own horse, you know, whether it's just going, we can't practice bandaging because we haven't had that lesson from you yet until after Equitana, but just something they can go away and do with their own horse.
The first thing I teach everybody is how to assess their own horse. And making sure that they've got a baseline set of vital signs for their horse. So if they don't know how to take their vital signs, there are lots of videos that can teach you, or they can go to my website. But learning how to take the vital signs and then having them written down, because that gives you a whole story. If you know what your horse's normal heart rate is, and then he doesn't look well one day and you take his heart rate, you need to know is it abnormal for him, or is it going to be reassuring? Oh yeah, his heart rate's all right, so maybe he's just having an off day, but he's actually not too unwell. How to listen to gut sounds, how to do all those things and really assess your horse from top to toe. I think that is the challenge I'm going to put out there. Everybody, I want to see that they've got their horse's baseline vital signs documented somewhere, so that the day that things aren't going well, they can tell whether things are normal or not.
Okay, that's great. You can go away and do that. Now, Amanda, if people do need to contact you, well, hopefully they never need to contact you, because that means their horse is healthy and everything's going cool, you know. But if they need to contact you, what's the best way to contact you?
Certainly, you can get me via email. It's amanda@equinecareclinic.com, or go on Facebook. I've got the Facebook page Equine Care Clinic, and we have a fabulous little group that's very safe. I got very cross one day on a rainy day. I was looking there and just seeing 1,000 comments and a lot of trolling on somebody whose horse had hurt itself. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. There was so much bad information. So I set up the Horse Wounds and Health Advice Facebook group. That is free to join, and there's lots of good information. There's a free ebook in there, some stuff in the files for people, and I get in there and answer any questions, and you can just message me on Messenger.
And those details, we'll get those details from Amanda and put them on horsechats.com. So again, search for Amanda, search for Edwards, and you'll find all those details at the bottom of the page. Amanda, thank you. You know, very, very informative. We'd love to have you back, but let's wait until after Equitana next time.
Yeah, big month coming up. Will I see you there? I will see you there, won't I?
Definitely.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.